1999. The high ridges above Kargil. A single Indian battery opens fire. 72 rockets in 44 seconds. An entire square kilometer of mountainside vanishes under steel and fire. The weapon is called Pinaka, named for the bow of Shiva. That day it announced itself as the army's hammer. But a hammer has one weakness. It only reaches as far as your arm. Pinaka could strike about 40 kilometers. No further. For 2 decades, that was the deal. Now India is quietly changing it. A rocket that saturates a square kilometer is terrifying, if the enemy stands close enough. Pinaka's early rockets flew roughly 38 kilometers. Enough for the line with Pakistan. Not enough for what sits behind it. Across the mountains, the problem was growing. China was building roads, depots, and airstrips deep inside Tibet, far past the reach of any Indian rocket. Saturation without range is a wall you can only swing at point blank. India needed that same wall of fire to land much, much deeper. And it needed to land precisely. The blunt hammer had to learn to aim. The answer came in 2 steps. First, precision. India fitted Pinaka rockets with satellite and inertial guidance, turning an area weapon into one that lands within 10 meters of a chosen point. Then, reach. Meet the Pinaka Mark III. The caliber jumps from 214 millimeters to 300. The warhead grows to 250 kilograms, and the range triples to 120 kilometers. The pre-production rockets are finished. Long-range validation trials are underway this year, and the Army has moved to induct the system on a fast track, a project worth around 2,500 crore rupees. But Mark III is not the finish line. India's Defense Research Chief has confirmed what comes next. The Pinaka Mark IV. Range, 300 kilometers. A guided rocket that flies as far as a short-range ballistic missile. In his own words, it bridges the gap between artillery and tactical missiles. The hammer is becoming a scalpel, with the arm of a missile. Pakistan was the old job. China is the new one. At 40 kilometers, Pinaka watched the border. At 300, it can reach the depots, the staging grounds, and the forward airfields China has pushed up toward the line of actual control. A weapon that once held a single ridgeline can now threaten the logistics that feed an entire offensive. And here is the quiet part. India can build these rockets by the thousand, far cheaper than ballistic missiles. Saturation was always Pinaka's gift. Now picture saturation, guided, landing 300 kilometers inside contested ground. That is not an artillery upgrade. That is a new kind of pressure on the most dangerous border India has. Here is why the combination is so dangerous. A single ballistic missile is precise, but costly. You fire one, at one target. Pinaka flips that math. A battery still empties its rails in seconds. But now each rocket can be told exactly where to go. One salvo can strike many separate targets at once. A radar here, a fuel dump there, a parked aircraft beyond. Precision at the scale of a barrage. An enemy cannot intercept dozens of guided rockets the way they might stop one missile, and they cannot predict which target each one is hunting. Cheap, fast, accurate, and many. That is the formula every modern army is chasing. India is building it on a launcher it has fielded for 25 years. The proof is who is lining up to buy it. Armenia ordered 4 Pinaka batteries, and in 2026 began receiving the guided rockets themselves. Then came the signal that mattered. France, a nuclear power, an operator of Western rocket artillery, sent its army to study Pinaka. The French army chief has asked about the longer-range version, eyeing it to bridge a gap in his own arsenal. Read that again. A Western power is evaluating an Indian rocket to fill a hole the West has not filled, from a Kargil ridgeline to a French shortlist inside one weapon's lifetime. 1999. 72 rockets. 44 seconds. 1 square kilometer of Kargil rock. That was the hammer. Today, the same weapon can place that fire 300 kilometers away, on a target the width of a room. The bow of Shiva just grew a much longer reach. This is the Terminal Intelligence Bureau. Like, share, and subscribe for more.